Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining me live, and for everyone who's going to watch this on the replay as well. For everyone joining me live, probably know who I am. For everyone who's seeing this for the first time, hi there. My name is Isabel Martins from Health and Natural Life, and I work with pretty much all things energy clearing, animal communication, sharing my insights, helping people understand how their energy field works, how to work with it as well to create deliberately in our lives, because that's what we're supposed to do here. It's our natural state of being, to be deliberate creators. It's just that we never really got the manual, so to speak. So on this session, and this is part of a series that I'm going to be doing, my intention is to do them weekly. So on Saturdays at 11 a.m. Lisbon time, I want to just share some of my insights, tips, techniques on how we can actually learn how to better use our energy, how to know how our energy works, so we can be as flexible and as adept at using our energy body as we are at using our physical body. And those are the tools that I think are going to be the most useful for us in the new world that we're moving into. New world, new society, new human species even. This time I want to share a little bit about the mind, and specifically why for most of us, our mind keeps chatting away at us, or with us if we're lucky. This is a very broad subject, so I'm just going to share basically a summary of some key points that I think are useful for us to understand, because when you understand why the mind keeps chatting away at you, you understand the principles, and you can be creative in ways that you can then start releasing the causes for that mind chatter in whatever way you want. If you know what's causing it, you can be creative in undoing almost those causes. So that's why I think this is a really important thing for us to understand what happens that makes our mind just keep going and going. And there is a phrase that I heard from Reginald Ray that I think summarizes this in the most beautiful and concise way I've ever heard. And it's that tension in the body causes discursive thought. And this in itself, if you remember this, you'll have everything that you need. I'll just explain some deeper layers of it, but this little snippet of a phrase is pretty much all that you need to remember. The tension in the body causes discursive thought. And it's not tension from natural movement, it's stored tension in the body. And why do we store tension? For that, I think that's the yogic concept of samskaras is very useful to share. And this concept speaks of how we actually trap energy, what we call here energy blocks in our body. And it happens because we have an untold number of experiences in a given day. So we see things, we hear things, we feel things, we smell things, we taste things, we think of things, we have internal experiences of everything in the external world and everything in our internal world as well. Some of these things we just actually most of these things we just allow them to pass through us. So we watch something like a tree or a sunshine, or we just catch a glimpse of a cloud and it just passes through us, that experience. Some other things we don't allow to pass through us, and because we don't allow them to pass through us, they cause an impression, and that's what in the yogic traditions is called the samskara. So what we usually don't allow to pass through us, it's either on the camp of things that feel uncomfortable for us. So if someone says something that we feel attacked, we don't allow that experience to fully enter us, the energy, the thoughts, the feelings, the sensations, everything. We don't allow that feeling energy to move through us freely. We push against it, we resist it. That resistance, not allowing the energy to fully flow through us, creates sort of a capsule around it where we push it down away so that it doesn't enter, it doesn't reach us at our center, at our core. If you've watched any of my other videos, and especially the energy clearing videos, I mentioned a lot of times that our core, our central meridian, is the place from where we create. It's our center from where everything in our life, including our body, is manifested. And everything that comes back to that center, to our core, goes back to pure life force, because that's what flows through our core. So it's the space inside of us where we have the manifestation current, so what we receive from our higher dimensions of self, anchoring down into the earth. That's the descending current, that's the manifestation current. And then we have the ascending current, something that comes from the earth or from our body, from our internal experience. It hits our core, it moves up. That's the demanifestation current. When we allow experiences to come through into our core, they just turn back into pure life force. But the things that we feel uncomfortable about, or if we see an animal that we're afraid of, or if we see a person that we don't like, or if we see some situation in the world that feels uncomfortable for us, usually, well, maybe not usually, but a lot of the times, we resist allowing that feeling experience to fully enter us and be demanifested. So to turn into pure life force again. And that resistance keeps the energy in our energy field and connected to our body. So that's a samskara. That's something that creates tension in our body, because it's a block of energy that's there, and energy always wants to move, but we are forcing it. We are using our own life force to keep that energy at bay so that we don't feel it. So that's the negative, so to speak, samskara. We also have the positive, so to speak, samskara. So things that we feel that feel so good that we don't want them to end. We don't want to let go of them. So it can be feeling loved by someone. It can be a beautiful sunset that you experienced once, and you want to hold on to the feeling of that sunset because it was so beautiful, such a magical experience. You still don't allow that experience to fully come through into your core, to be turned into pure life force, because you want to feel that way more of the time, and you think that by pushing it, holding on to it, you'll hold on to the feeling. But in truth, that's not what happens. You're just pushing down on the energy, and you're creating another energy block in a samskara, that the next time that, for instance, you see a sunset, you'll be comparing it to this one, and it will not perhaps be as magical as this one, and you'll be disappointed. So instead of actually enjoying the present moment and everything that you are now experiencing, you're comparing it to something that you loved so much that it's not being met. So this is not, it's not a way of living, as you can imagine. And it creates, again, another energy block, energy that's trying to move, and we're using our own life force to push against it. And we do this with a lot of our attachments, with a lot of our aversions. We start sequestering part of our energy and using our own life force to then just keep them at bay, not allowing them to come to our center, to our core, to be fully experienced and to move through into being pure life force again. And this is what's called as well the ego structure. In the body, we hold these patterns of tension because of the samskaras, so the attachments, the aversions, the ideas that we have about ourselves, the identities. All of these things are more rigid patterns of thought that for us to actually hold on to them, they need to be anchored in the body. And the way that they are anchored in the body is by holding tension, by patterns of holding tension in the body. So our ego structure is completely mapped in our patterns of tension in the body. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of us, at least in the Western societies, we don't live so much in our body. We live in our heads and in our minds, sometimes not even in our head, way above, trying to be out of our bodies. we have been conditioned. It's a cultural conditioning done automatically, pretty much, because it's been going on for so long. We've moved from thinking and living in our body, and thinking with the right side of the brain, so the creative, the embodied, the imaginative, the intuitive side of the brain. We've created an over dependence on the left side of the brain. And the left side of the brain is the rational one, the one that tries to fix things, the one that tries to keep us safe, and not embodied. So it's the rational side of the brain instead of the embodied side of the brain. And what we did with this over reliance on the left brain is to move out of being embodied and be very rational as a culture. We try to rationalize things, we try to keep everything under control, the circumstances outside, because when we have samskaras, we have pretty much given our mind the task of creating circumstances or navigating our lives in a way that we avoid feeling these pockets of energy that we've sequestered. So the experiences that we didn't like, we tell our mind something on the lines of, this is something that I don't want to feel ever. So do whatever you need to do. Let's try to control the world, circumstances, and people outside of us so that we don't ever have to feel this way. And the things that we do want to feel more of, we again tell our mind, let's try to repeat this. Let's try to again manipulate, control situations, circumstances, the world outside, people, in order to feel more of this. So we have given our left brain an impossible task, pretty much. Try to monitor, try to control something that is uncontrollable, so to speak, the outside world, in order to not hit our pockets of sequestered energy, our samskaras. And that's why we are over reliant on the left side of the brain. And because of all the tension and the discomfort that those samskaras cause in the body, we have moved up. And it's almost like a double whammy, because it keeps reinforcing that loop. Being the left side of the brain kind of moves us up from the body into the head. And feeling the tension, feeling the discomfort in our body makes us want to move out of our body. And it just keeps reinforcing being in the left brain, being that rational type of thinking, trying to control everything. And yeah, it's one of those cycles that is a vicious cycle, keeps on feeding itself. Alrighty, so that's what we're doing, and that's what causes the discursive thought. It's this much tension in the body, the ego structure in the body, the patterns of, I have to avoid this, I have to create this, I have to maintain this, or I have to avoid everything that feels this way. Our mind is always, always, always trying to control everything to soothe us. Sometimes it's just soothing, trying to make us feel better about whatever it is that got hit. And this is kind of a triple whammy of losing energy. You have energy that's sequestered in your blocks, so in the samskaras. You have energy that you're sequestering in trying to keep them at bay from coming from your core and being fully felt. There's a lot of energy that's being used to push against that. And there's also a very real and very big limiting of your freedom, of your options, because there's so much that you can't experience, that you don't want to see, that you don't want to feel, and it needs to be in this narrow band, your experience. So it really just compacts our energy and really limits our freedom and our expression, all of these samskaras. So what do we want to do? Every time that our mind is in discursive thought, you can see it as a cry for help. Everything that we store, that we push down, just wants, like everything else living in our reality, just wants to be seen, to be acknowledged, to be accepted, to be fully felt. You can call it to be fully loved, because when we allow something completely into our core, there's nothing more loving than that. We're bringing something, we're merging with it, we're bringing it to our center, to our core, and it just very naturally turns into life force again. So what would I suggest? First, if you want to remember, without tension in the body, there can be no tension in the mind. So anything that you can use to release physical tension will help soothe your mind as well. And there are many techniques, I'm pretty sure, that you know of. I've shared a lot of them as well in my playlist for extreme anxiety. Breathing is a really important technique to help soothe you. TRE, so tension release exercise. I haven't created a video on that one, but it's a really, really powerful technique. Shaking is another one when you feel that your mind is going just shaking, really physically shaking, because that will help whatever pent up energy just stored or is coming up in your body. It will help release some of that. It will help you come back to a more grounded place. Another thing, grounding. I shared another exercise on the last video of just an easy and quick way to actually ground yourself. So breathing with your focus first on your perineum and then breathing out with your focus on the earth. Shifting your focus to the perineum, breathing in, shifting your focus on the earth, breathing out. That type of breathing done for, I would say probably not even a minute, will help you ground and come into your body. And you might feel really uncomfortable because of all the tension, but when you are in body, then you can be aware of the tension instead of being lost in the mind. Because the mind is the lightest, less dense of the bodies that we're aware of. Mental body, emotional body, physical body. The physical body, you can think of it as a mountain. So it's grounded, it's solid. It's easier for you to be aware of things and be able to shift things. Then you have the emotional body. You can think of it as water. So it's more malleable and outside circumstances can sway it more easily. And then you have the mental body. You can think of it as air pretty much. So anything outside, low pressure, high pressure, just makes it move very, very easily. When we're not grounded, embodied, and we're in our mind, in our mental body, we can be swayed all over the place by whatever is happening outside. So it's really important in those times that we have the presence of mind, or at least the habit of grounding, coming back to the body, because we're at that mountain then, and it's a lot harder for things outside to rattle us around. Another exercise technique that I really like to do when I feel internal tension is to imagine that where I'm feeling the tension, imagine that's a block of ice, and imagine a sun starting to melt that ice. Melt and melt and melt. And what you're doing is pretty much starting to release the tension, the resistance that's around the samskaras. So whatever tension you're putting to hold it in place, that's what you're dissolving. And you might very well start feeling the sensation, the emotion that you didn't want to feel before. What's important then is that you maintain your body as relaxed as possible, breathe, continue to breathe through the places of tension, continue to be embodied so that that energy can start coming to your center. And you probably will feel this a lot of the times, is that it starts moving to your core and up. The more that you do this, the more that you'll be aware that that's one of the pathways to be transformed, the energy. It's not always this, but most often, or very often, it is this. It starts coming to your center, to your core, and it transforms into life energy. That's one of the things that you can do. And again, anything that you can think of that helps you relax and be present in your body, breathe while you are feeling the energy, the sensations, the emotions move. Don't go into stories. If something pops in your mind, let it, but just keep focusing on the body, on the sensations, because you are allowing the energy of that samskara to be freed up, be seen, be felt, be accepted, be loved, come into your core and turn back into pure life force. And with it, you're bringing back into your own energy field a part of you that was first sequestered here. And usually that energy can have a lot of creative consciousness in it. So the more of these samskaras that you allow yourself to bring in and allow their life force to be part of your life force again, the more whole, healthy, creative, successful, anything that we know is natural for a human being to be, the more that you will become that. You are coming back to wholeness. And well, in my books, there's nothing more important for us to be than that. We're coming back to wholeness every time that we make a choice to allow that energy to start coming back. And I think that's what I wanted to share. So I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, just put them in the comments. The usual things for YouTube to actually share this video. Like, comment, share, whatever you feel inspired to do. And I'll see you in the next video.